Okay, we're back with the 3 o'clock rock here on a given Thursday. We just finished this fabulous program on jobs for Hawaii, working for our future, with Mitch Dollier and Jack Siderhout, economist, and the CEO of American Savings Bank, Richard Wacker, and Susan Yamada, who was really a firecracker today from the Scheidler College of Business.
Okay.
And we had great questions from the audience. We really candid discussion. It all came together very well, happy to say. Anyway, now we're moving on to what I consider a great talk show with Lishomwa Ndhlovu, who is a researcher. He's a PhD, MD at the Hawaii Center for AIDS, an assistant professor there. Welcome to the show, Lisha.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
Excited to be here.
You. Well, this is Think Tech Talks. We're talking about advances in HIV and AIDS research going on. And I guess the thing I would like to mention is that we're doing it here in Hawaii. Yeah.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. We have over 4,000 HIV cases on the island. We have been conducting HIV research for many years. I've been on the island now for about 5 years. I joined as an assistant professor. Now I'm a tenured associate professor in the Department of Tropical Medicine, but also linked up as an investigator with the Hawaii Center for AIDS. Mm-hmm. And we have been shifting our HIV research to be more transformative. We really are now moving from trying to understand not only how to improve our treatment for our patients, but really to get to this question of how can we actually cure them. And this is a very bold
It is. I remember Cecilia Shikuma talked about that. She says, a lot of people, antiretroviral techniques and all that, notwithstanding, let's stamp out the virus. That's your
correct.
mission. Yeah.
That's correct. I mean, it's a bold plan, so to do that, we need a lot of support from the community. We are interacting with multiple investigators around the world, and we really think that Hawaii is in a very unique position that we can actually eradicate the virus in multiple approaches that we want to do, from preventing people from getting new infections, from finding ways that we can improve uptake of antiretroviral therapy in those that are already infected, but also those that are infected, how can we find ways to actually eradicate the virus? And this is really an exciting time in research because, as I mentioned, we were able to get Mr. Timothy Brown, who is the first patient who's actually been cured of HIV, to come and help join in our efforts to conduct research, but also really get there to be other patients that are actually being cured of HIV.
Yeah, he spoke at Hawaii to Zero, and I was
Correct.
there. We took an OC-16 movie there. You spoke there. That was a really interesting program. It opened my eyes in many ways. And since you mentioned Timothy Brown, I'd like you to talk about who he is. The Berlin patient, wasn't it?
That's right. Initially as the Berlin patient, and he was we're very excited that he was able to come out and tell us who he was and tell us his experiences, which are really remarkable. For 4 decades, we've been trying to figure out, how this virus is able to get into your into your body and not come out. And to see a case of a complete eradication of the virus is really a great enthusiastic effort for us to follow in that pursuit of a cure.
He's AIDS-free. He's HIV-free.
That's a tough word to use because we've never been in a scenario where we can actually, with the current tools we have, it does appear he doesn't have the virus. So I can, essentially it's almost a cure. I mean, if you think of the cancer field, we talk about people not having remission or they just don't have the cancer come back and we say they're cured. And I think in HIV, we're using these new words and we're developing tools that are even better to show, for instance, that he really doesn't have the virus anymore. So essentially right now with the tools that we have, it does appear that there is no virus and we can actually begin to use the word cure. And this gives us tremendous excitement that we may be able to replicate that using novel strategies now and put in a lot more effort to try to repeat that.
Yeah, amazing. So you have a patient who actually, if you track every little thing that happened to him, maybe you can figure out some stuff.
Exactly. I mean, the old belief was, this is a virus that integrates into your gene, and it's there, and you just can't get it out. So it was very, very depressing. I mean, it's part of a virus family called retroviruses, and there isn't any cure for any retrovirus. There are a couple of other viruses with the same family, and we've not been able to cure those. So I think this is really a great start. Now, why Hawaii? We have a very unique geography, but also a very unique culture here where everyone is very interactive. and you know, there's a great community spirit. This gives us a very unique opportunity to do things that have never been done anywhere and may not be able to be done anywhere, and that is to really you know, institute a complete eradication of the virus on the island. If we can do that at a state level, and it was very exciting to see all the members in the community come together at this first initiative of ours, and just to, you know, bring this to light and share in our research efforts, but also, you know, we can't do this without the community.
Yeah, that was very exciting. That was the Hawaii to Zero.
That's
Can you talk about that program exactly? What is that program, and why did you have that particular seminar that Saturday morning?
Yeah, no, it struck me that, you know, we do have a very, you know, organized number of patients in the island. One of the big things that we have to do is track them all down, get everyone on treatment, because, you know, without treatment, we cannot get the viral burden down, and that is really a key factor in some of our research efforts to try to eradicate HIV, is to really, you know, get the virus down. And from this initiative, we said, well, we need to get everyone together, you know, figure out how we can move and be part of the, you know, the research efforts to actually eradicate HIV. And to do that, we have to get all the stakeholders together. So, you know, we came up with an initiative, the Hawaii to Zero, H2O program, to find not only a way to get everyone together, but also a way to garner research support. These are very expensive efforts that we're trying to embark on, and, you know, without that support, we cannot achieve that. But,
Sure.
but we're very excited that we have teamed up with, and I've sort of, you know, with the Hawaii Center for AIDS, teamed up with many centers around the world, really bringing that effort to be brought here, and we're moving full steam ahead. The initiative was sort of a first start and push to get this initiative out in the public. We're hoping to get as much support. So far, the feedback has been very positive. We're very excited, and we have lots more to tell you as we come going forward.
Yeah, I want to hear it, all of it, here and elsewhere.
Absolutely.
You know, so I sat between a nurse,
Correct.
she was really great from KCC.
Okay.
She's a nurse professor is what she was. And Jane Simoni, who was one of your co-speakers.
Correct.
And she was, she was a psychologist, I think.
Correct.
So you had all kinds of disciplines involved.
Yeah, like I said, it will take a massive team of people, from epidemiologists to our public health departments, to our clinicians, to our nursing staff. It's really going to take a holistic effort. We're very happy to have Jane Simoni here doing a sabbatical from the University of Washington, and she gave her insight into how we can involve ourselves in preventative measures and how up to date are we with these methods and how can we implement them in a very unique setting. And if we can start with this approach in Hawaii, this could really have implications on the wider level of different states, but also internationally as well.
Yes, and wider than just medicine.
Absolutely.
It's a statement
absolutely.
about Hawaii.
Exactly. I mean, you know, Hawaii is very unique. We were the first state, as you know, to initiate needle exchange, which has really been a mainstay in preventing new transmissions. So, you know, we have the ability to do that. We were able to garner the community together and institute that program. This is something that, as you know, there's new outbreaks occurring in central parts of the U.S., and it's simply because they hadn't adopted these crucial policies. We heard in the talk about our new partner initiatives to try to track patients down through partner pairing, which I think is what we do for any STD, but we never did that for HIV, and I think that has contributed to an epidemic explosion over the years. And to have that being done in Hawaii and at a level that we can now expand on it is really fascinating to hear.
It all goes to show that Hawaii is a great laboratory.
Absolutely.
Because of the diversity, because of the cooperation, you know, the availability of people. Now Cecilia Shikuma, she's been doing this for a while. As a matter of fact,
Correct.
about a year ago, she was on our program about medical research in Hawaii, which we had at Laniakea. Can you talk about her a little?
Yeah, no, Dr. Shikuma has been one of the reasons I came to Hawaii. She's been at the forefront of HIV care. I think we were, you know, she was part of the initial program to institute antiretroviral therapies, to test them here when we just didn't have any treatments. Now we have over 20 to 30 new drugs that work brilliantly in patients. We can actually get the virus to levels that our current techniques cannot detect in the blood. That said, what we've been able to piece together is, you know, if people get on treatment, everyone should be fine. We should be able to, eventually people should come off their treatments.
Can you say that today?
That's what we were hoping. However, what it's turned out is that if you stop treatment, the virus comes back, and that was very tragic. And you know, now we know that people have to be on their medication for life, and that has consequences. It's cost issues, you know, compliance with medications.
Side effects?
Side effects, and that was something that has led up to new research opportunities, because we want to find out, well, what can we do to prevent people from remaining on the medications. Unfortunately, the virus has found a way to hide, and that has been a problem. The second big problem has been when you are infected and you have no virus in the blood, it's still hiding. And what it does is it causes a lot of inflammation. And it's really sad, because now we're seeing our HIV patients, even though they've been on treatment for a long time, having a lot of side effects. And these comorbidities, as we call them, affect every organ of the body. In fact, what happens is a lot of these comorbidities look like people who are getting older. So we're seeing a lot of our patients now having cardiovascular effects on their heart, on their kidneys, on their brain.
Timothy looked like he put a few years on.
Exactly, and you're getting a resurgence of malignancies, cancers that we didn't see before in patients, even though they've been on treatment for a long time. So, our research effort has now really shifted over the last few years, with Dr. Shikuma strategizing on ways that we can try to treat these new comorbidities. But at the end of the day, it's still because you have residual virus.
Yeah.
We need to figure out where it's hiding and how we can get rid of it.
She was very passionate about that.
Absolutely. We really are determined to try to improve patients' quality of life. And I think we've found that, just having the residual virus present causes all these immunological dysfunctions that still persist despite treatment. So this is why we have to figure out ways to treat those comorbidities, but also the ultimate goal is to get rid of the virus completely. So we've embarked on a program now of research to really participate in that. As an immunologist by training, we have figured out that actually we could take advantage of the immune system now to try to participate in that cure strategy. And there's been some really remarkable breakthroughs in the last few years that give us hope that we can eventually achieve a curative strategy to eradicate HIV.
Okay, I want to talk about those in detail right after this break. We'll take a short break. It's Dr. Lishomwa
Just call me Lish.
Lisha.
Lish,
okay.
Okay,
Ndhlovu, assistant professor, associate professor at the John A. Burton School of Medicine. That is the Hawaii Cancer Center. We'll be right back. You'll see.
Aloha, my name is Justine Espiritu, and I co-host Hawaii Farmers Series with Matthew Johnson of Oahu Fresh. We talk about Hawaii's local farmers and their supporters. In order to have a vibrant and sustainable local food system, farmers are always the foundation, but there's so many other people involved in the community that help support those farmers. So we bring those folks onto our show every Thursday at 4 p.m. We get their backstory, their history, find out a little more about them, and we find out why they love what they do and their perspective and their advice on how we can continue to have a dynamic and vibrant and sustainable local food system. So we broadcast live every Thursday at 4 p.m. And you can also catch us on ThinkTech's YouTube channel as well as Alelo 54. So we hope you tune in and join us. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. We're live with Lishomwa Ndhlovu, who is associate professor at the Hawaii Center for AIDS at JAPSOM. So, gee whiz, I mean, this is so exciting. But one thing that comes to mind is all these organizations in Kaka'ako around the medical school, in the cancer center. You're physically in the cancer center?
No, we're physically in the medical school, but in close proximity to the cancer center, just across the pond, yeah.
It suggests to me, as just an observer, that there must be a relationship, an overlap between research in cancer and research in AIDS, HIV/AIDS.
Yes, I think HIV attacks the immune system, and the immune system is critical for pretty much everything that happens to you, from why it's unable to protect you from cancer, and also the immune system itself can become cancerous, such as leukemias. So I think there's a lot of interrelations, and it's interesting how we interact with the field of cancer immunotherapy, but also the field of other infectious diseases as well. So I think because HIV affects the immune system, there's a lot of cross-link with other infections, but also in helping manage other diseases. So there's a nice interaction going on between.
But here's the question that comes to mind, though. If you make an advance in HIV/AIDS research, is that useful in cancer research?
In fact, a lot of the current cure strategies are finding a very nice interaction between the research that's going on in the cancer field. And some of the work that we have recently just been working on and other groups have found that one way that we can actually get the virus to come out of its hiding places has actually come from the use of drugs that are currently being used in cancer for other uses. So there's a very interesting interaction. If we take this back many, many years ago, when we didn't have any therapy for HIV, one of the first approved, FDA-approved therapies for HIV was actually an anti-cancer agent called AZT. So there has been a long history of the cancer field and the HIV field working together.
What about virus in general? I mean, we know it's a virus,
Correct.
and it's a particularly pernicious virus, and one that hides on you. But is it the same as another kind of virus? I mean, does viral research that went before help you in studying HIV?
I think so. You know, it is one of the retrovirus families. So, I mean, the early discoverers of HIV were working on retroviruses. This is how we're able to identify HIV. Understanding the life cycle of a retrovirus has really been the center of us developing drugs that can target the HIV virus life cycle. So most of the HIV drugs have come from our understanding of viral life cycles, you know, the enzymes that are involved in allowing the virus to replicate within a cell. So, and also, that has really been a key link between understanding general virology, but also how that has been applied to figuring out drugs that can target HIV.
Okay, so when I first met you,
Yeah.
in fact, I think Tina Shelton, the public affairs officer for the medical school, introduced us that morning in the
Correct.
program, the H2O program. She said, "Be careful, because Leash is working on stuff he can't talk about." And
Well, now the good news is actually now some of our work has been published, as you may have heard, and this is a very interesting approach and I like the way you brought up the question of, you know, how can we learn from other infections and from the cancer field? And one of the strategies now that is being considered to cure HIV is what we call the shock and kill strategy. As I mentioned, one of the dilemmas we have had is finding out where the virus is hiding. If you've been on treatment for a long time, you know, there's very little virus that we can detect in the blood using our current techniques, and it's hiding in the cells. We need to figure out what those cells are. But we've found that certain cancer drugs, and there are a lot of new drugs that have come out that are being tested, can actually shock the virus out of those cells. And we're really trying to find better ways to get as much virus out of those cells back into the blood so that the drugs can eliminate the virus, but also that perhaps we can get your immune system to contribute. One of the things that we've been interested in understanding is why is your immune system not able to eradicate HIV? And we've found that the virus has found a really exciting method to keep itself protected from immune clearance. And we've found pathways that the virus triggers that prevent the immune system from working very well. We teamed up with a number of groups and a drug company to test drugs that will actually reverse that immune defect and allow the immune system to then target these reactivated viruses. So we're very excited that these drugs seem to work very well. Right now, one of those drugs actually is being used to treat cancer. So again, a very interesting link between the cancer fields and the HIV field. So I think going forward, these are one of the strategies. We need to figure out whether this system can actually work in patients. So we're trying to move this forward. And this is why our initiative has begun to try to find resources to allow us to move this work forward. But we're very excited with the current findings of this work.
So let me go back a little.
Sure.
What do you mean shock the virus out of its hiding place? What does that mean, shock?
So we use the word shock, but essentially what it is doing is when the virus goes to sleep, it actually hides inside the cell. And what it does is it goes into a state of latency. And there's a couple of things that go on with the chromosomes and the cell where it actually gets into the DNA and it just sort of goes to sleep. So we have to find a way to reawaken it. And that's where we talk about, you know, the shock strategy.
Is it dangerous to reawaken, to shock it into being awakened?
This is what's exciting. So some of these drugs have already been used in cancer, and it looks like it's working. Some of the new data is showing that it's working quite safely as well. And we're trying to find better drugs that can do that shock strategy.
So when you shock it and it comes back out, then you kill it.
Exactly.
Or you
and that's
give
why
it
we
a
call
drug
it the
that
shock
will-
and kill. Exactly.
Shock and kill.
We hope that we can kill it with your antiretroviral drugs, which we're giving right now. But one of the best ways is really to get your immune system. It does it better than anything else. And we're finding actually that the immune system, if we can prevent it from being weak and strengthen it and re-energize them, you can actually get enough of an immune response that it'll clear that reactivated virus. And hopefully that will reduce the burden of the virus and eventually to a point where it's actually undetectable and cleared.
the immune system is such an interesting thing.
It really is.
And,
Very
and the
powerful.
virus is very interesting in that it found a way. Viruses always
Exactly.
mutate, and they found a way here to beat the immune system. So
Exactly.
query, how did that happen? And is it that some patients have a strong enough immune system that they don't need any help in beating the virus?
Yes, you bring up a very exciting point, and there's a whole group of people who study these other patients, and we actually have access to some of those patients. They're called elite controllers, and these are a very small percentage of patients who have a remarkable immune system that is very powerful. It hasn't been weakened, and it is able to actually keep the virus under control. And these people don't need any medication. So we call these individuals elite controllers. They keep the virus under control for many years, and when we've looked at them in more detail, we find that their killer cells, the cells that actually do the killing, are very good at doing it. They just don't have that dysfunction.
That's not
that
like
we
white
see.
blood cells, is it? No.
They are actually a type of white blood cell, you're
Okay.
absolutely right. And so these elite controllers have a number of things. In addition to, they have some genetic makeup as well that protects them from being able to control the virus. So they're a very unique group of people, and they're estimated to be about 2,000 of them in the US, and there are a couple of groups in the US who have been studying them in great detail. And we're very lucky to have access to some of those patients to try to see if we can understand how they're able to control the virus. And it looks like some of these pathways are actually important that we've been able to identify.
Can I
in this
take their
control.
elite quality and somehow make it mine?
You
Can
know,
I do
we
a
would-
transfusion of some
These
sort?
are exactly some of the things that we want to try and look at. I mean, there are many ways that you can harness this knowledge to figure out ways that we can get people who don't have those qualities to have those similar qualities. So we want to figure out what is the correlative protection, what it is within their immune system that makes them able to control the virus. So absolutely, these are some of the research questions that
Short of that, though,
we try to look at.
how can you change my immune system so that it will be able to beat the virus? How can you make it stronger? Is it a matter of genetic modification or what?
So there are two things. So there are groups that are looking at ways that we can genetically modify your immune system, particularly these cells that we call killer cells, CD8 cells. And that's a very interesting new strategy that's being considered by others. One of the approaches that we have taken is to figure out what it is on those cells that make them not work. And we have found certain molecules actually come up on these cells. The virus is able to trigger these molecules that come up on these immune cells, and then they just don't work. So we try to shut that off. And we've found drugs that actually are able to do that. And what's exciting is some of these drugs are already in clinical use in the cancer field. We're finding new pathways as well that might be harnessed in combination with other drugs. We can actually get these immune cells to work even better and potentially have the capacity to clear HIV. They're very good at clearing cancer cells, we know, when you use these drugs to prevent the immune system from being weakened. So we think there's hope to use the similar strategies in HIV.
Very sophisticated business.
So it is very, very
I
exciting.
mean, you had some drawings of the cells and the molecules at the program at Hawaii to Zero that were very sophisticated. And I mean, you're really dealing at the molecular level here, aren't you?
Yes, I mean, like I said, even for the HIV drugs, it was very molecular. We needed to figure out the life cycle, and that's how we were able to come up with these really life-saving drugs. So I think, at the molecular level, understanding these pathways is really going to be key to allow us to move this forward, particularly towards a cure.
So right now, the problem is for most immune systems, there's a certain thing that, holds the immune system back, that
Correct.
doesn't let it deal with the virus.
Exactly.
And you got to get rid of the thing that's holding it back.
Exactly.
Let
Very,
it-
very well said.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, oh, very interesting.
So we can manipulate the immune system in some way to improve function.
Okay, I want to take another break,
Sure.
Lish, and when we come back, I'd like to talk for a minute about exactly how you do this.
Sure.
I mean, about the testing, the trials, the machinery, the data collection, whatever it is, and just sort of look over your shoulder while you do your work.
Sure,
Right?
absolutely.
That's
Thank
Lishomwa Ndhlovu, Associate Professor at the Hawaii Center for AIDS in Kaka'ako, here on Think Tech Talks, talking about advances in HIV and AIDS research. Incredible, here in Hawaii. Wow, excellence, I'm telling you. We'll be right back.
Aloha, welcome to Think Tech Hawaii. My name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island and a physician. I host a show weekly called Healthcare in Hawaii, where we talk about the most important issues in healthcare for our state, whether it's the dengue fever outbreak, the state of our public hospitals, how to find physicians and nurses for our patients, or really just the best things to do for our family's health, that's what you'll find on this show. I'll bring experts to your attention, and we'll have a free-flowing dialogue. Thanks for joining us.
Aloha, my name is Reg Baker, and I'm the host of Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. Business in Hawaii is a program that is positive stories about business in Hawaii. We're tired of hearing the negativity and why it's the wrong place to have a business. We talk about the positive reasons for having a business in Hawaii and how to be successful. We broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live with Lishomwa Ndhlovu. He's Associate Professor in Research at the Hawaii Center for AIDS. We have a short video we want to play for you, just to sort of take you into his research facility. Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here with Lishomwa Ndhlovu, Associate Professor at the Hawaii Center for AIDS. Lish, what was that movie all about?
I think that was somebody in the lab, getting some blood from one of our patients, processing it, getting it ready for some of our immunological assays to see what the immune system looks like.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what do you do? I mean, as a researcher, I mean, there are people out there who might like your job, might like to study under you, might like to take some courses, learn about this. What do you do all day?
This is a very long day. I wouldn't recommend anyone joining our group. I'm just kidding. But no, a regular day, is a combination, being an academic institution. It's a lot of mentoring, a lot of students in our group. We have fellows as well who are also actively involved in the research questions. So we have meetings, discussions on where we are moving our research, and a lot of long days trying to see whether these approaches actually work. So we're always testing new approaches and lots of meetings and lots of teaching as well. So it's a combination of both.
You wake up one morning and say, we're going to test this approach.
Correct.
And then you decide how you're going to test it.
Exactly.
With what methodology. So give us an example, if you will, of an approach that you decided to test and how you tested it.
Well, so for example, we've come across some compounds, or we've read up in the literature of particularly new pathways that may be relevant for HIV from other fields perhaps, or within the HIV field, and say, well, using our current approach, because we have different methods of looking at comorbidities, but also looking at cure approaches, would they be relevant in those systems? So, one of the things we do is we have to get the right patients, and that's very, very challenging. And we try not to limit ourselves. So for example, one of the things we like to do is to know, well, just how soon after HIV infection do these problems begin, the immune system. So we've teamed up with a pretty interesting cohort of HIV patients in Thailand, for example, who are being captured with HIV within 2 to 3 weeks. So it's really remarkable. And they get treated straight away.
There's a special moment, isn't it?
Correct.
There's a special time after infection where you can have a special advantage, right?
Exactly. So, maybe if we treat people incredibly early, perhaps we'll prevent the immune system from getting, whacked. Can we prevent the virus from getting established? And then we look over time in these individuals to see whether we've been able to stop or halt long-term problems. So we're very active in a study right now in Thailand where we're looking at these patients. These samples are sent to us and we carry out a lot of our immunologic assays. Locally, what we have is our own patients who have been on therapy for a long time. We have we have some very unique patients in Hawaii who've been infected for a very long time. They've been on treatment for a long time, and they really should have had lower levels of virus over time and had no complications, but they still do. So we actually call them in. We're very delighted for them to participate in our study.
And they're cooperative and all that.
Very, very cooperative, and it's fantastic. We're able to do a number of tests within the Hawaii Center for AIDS. Dr. Shikuma has developed and been involved in a number of assay systems that can look at the brain, at the heart, and we carried a number of tests on them, and then we try to see what are the immunological parameters that we study that would indicate that they are having these problems, and can we stop these problems with new drugs? So we found out certain drugs that may affect the immune system that may be involved in these comorbidities, and we actually test these drugs. So certain drugs are actually commercially available, others are not. They're not yet actually being used in other diseases, so we can actually test new drugs as well and try to help our patients lead better quality of life despite having long-term infection.
I know in research that the drugs are going to be research type drugs.
Correct.
And the exact street price is not necessarily relevant, but if these drugs were available on the street, would it be very expensive drugs like the Hep C drug that's so expensive, for example?
So it is a difficult scenario. I know a lot of the drug companies, when they develop drugs, there's a lot of research that goes into it, and it's at that commercial level to determine what would be viable for them in terms of the pricing. We try not to get actively involved in that discussion. We're really at the level of trying to figure out what is the right drug, I think, and what is the right therapies for these particular therapies. And then unfortunately, we'll have to cooperate with drug firms to figure out,
Sure.
If we can actually get them into
They have their end, you
patients.
have
We
your
have
end.
different ends, exactly.
Yeah. So you're going to test the drug on the patients. You're going to look at the patients in every way that a doctor would look,
Exactly.
and that a research person would look to the blood and all kinds of
Exactly.
indicia of one kind or another. And then you can keep records of exactly how that works.
Exactly,
And you're going to
correct.
sit again in a meeting and decide what you learned with all that.
Absolutely, and that really is critical because we are trying to figure out whether we have had a major change in the comorbidities, and from our cure perspectives, have we been able to reduce the amount of virus that's in the individual to a point where we hopefully will not be able to detect it. So we're perfecting the techniques to actually determine whether we have had a cure. This is the first time this has ever been thought about, actually eradicating HIV completely. We have to find better ways to determine that we've cured someone. So that's a very new area of research that we're trying to embark on as well and participate in. Another thing is, is the immune system strong enough now that it should be able to clear the virus? So we can do only so much in humans to a point. So we've teamed up with Oregon National Primate Center, where there is a very interesting model, non-human primate model, where you can actually give a virus very similar to HIV. And this has been a
They
useful
share a
model.
vulnerability to AIDS. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They actually do develop AIDS, and we can test a lot of our drugs in that system. And this recent work that we've just published, we've taken advantage of that collaboration to test some of our potential new therapies that would improve immune function in cells from these monkeys.
So what you're telling
very
me
exciting.
is Hawaii is on the global map
Absolutely.
of research.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it wasn't before, it certainly is now.
Yeah.
And you're collaborating with other similar organizations all around, from
Absolutely.
Asia to
We are not restricting ourselves. We want to find a cure here, so we're going to
Yeah.
do whatever it takes to get to that point.
So here we have an international effort to try to cure this. How do you coordinate? How do you do that collaboration? How do you wake up in the morning and see the whole global picture and find a place for the Hawaii Center for AIDS in that landscape?
Yeah, no, I think we are very well positioned in this region, but the world has changed now. There's a lot of collaborations. There's a lot of it's the ease of moving around and interacting with different groups, and really finding a way to get everyone to follow our own mission, which is a cure for our island. And I think what we've done is, and it's been very exciting, is to get people energized and engaged. And we've been very fortunate that we've had phenomenal collaborations from really throughout the country, but also internationally, to bring that effort towards it. We all have the same global goal. So I think it's not a one-person effort, but it's a group effort. But I think we are very uniquely positioned to bring that effort to this island.
So here I see emerging out of this a picture of the Hawaii Center for AIDS becoming, if maybe it is already, an international leader in this research, a center of excellence, in fact, where discoveries are made here that have a watershed effect on research elsewhere. Query, is that the case now? And if it isn't, what do we have to do to get there?
So we are, this effort, Timothy Brown was just recently cured. I think this effort is global. We're not the only groups now that are pursuing this. I think we're very uniquely positioned because of our infrastructure, our collaborative effort on the island, but also the research efforts we're doing. Other institutions are following the same approach. I think we're very unique in that effort. I think teaming up with everyone to conduct these efforts individually, but also as a group, will benefit us as well dramatically.
So it's the collaboration, that
that
raises
is the key.
Hawaii to a
Absolutely.
level of excellence that the
Absolutely.
world will note.
What is key, though, is for us to really make that difference. I think it's going to need really tremendous support from within the community. I think a lot of these other sites around the country have got a lot of support from their own communities. We're trying to garner community support, both financial, to allow us to pursue these efforts in Hawaii. I think we have the great infrastructure to do groundbreaking translational work. Just to point out, Dr. Shikuma and our Hawaii Center for AIDS have just opened a translational research clinic on the grounds of the medical school, which is the first.
Oh, that was the
in
same
medical
day
school.
that you had a ceremony.
Absolutely. So
Same
this
day.
allows us to do a lot of these translational studies. We're trying to move very quickly from the bench to the bedside. I think we have a remarkable infrastructure where the proximity is unparalleled to many places that I've worked before. So I think we are very uniquely positioned to make groundbreaking work.
And it's
where it
symbiotic.
happens.
You need to have one for the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think we're very well positioned for this, and I'm excited to be part of this effort.
What's your prediction? Can you would you take a risk and make a prediction for me about how well and how soon we're going to deal with this?
That's a very tough question, and I think it's almost the same as what we've just had with the president sort of announcing a cure initiative for cancer. That has been going on for many years. There are many different types of cancers. Fortunately, HIV is one single virus. We've been doing this for 40 years. We finally have, it's the fourth decade, and we have the first cured patient. So I think it's optimistic. We're very optimistic. The breakthroughs in the last few years in immunology have been, really groundbreaking. So we're very hopeful with the efforts that we're doing. It really depends on how much efforts we can get from the community in terms of support from the, and then the breakthroughs and how quickly we could move those translationally. So I think there's, this timeline is very hard to give you an exact timeline, but it's an effort that we think we can contribute greatly and get to that point where we can have a Hawaii cured patient.
Where does this play with the other side of the coin, the side of the coin that Jane Simone was talking about prevention, about changing the conduct of our people so that they don't get in trouble?
Yes, so as I mentioned, when I talk about the HIV Cure Initiative, I would rephrase that as the Prevention and Cure Initiative. I think they have to go hand in hand. We have to stop new infections, and this is a behavioral disease to some extent. And Jane gave some really exciting highlights on strategies that are being done everywhere. There are strategies now to introduce preventative drugs. There are potential drugs that may prevent transmission. We need to get those instituted within our community. And I think awareness, I think there's been a lack of awareness of that. People believe this disease has gone away or it's not important, but we do get new infections all the time, so it's present. And there's still a lot of new transmissions.
Is it growing?
It is growing. It certainly is growing. And I think I showed some slides about the trends over the last few years. It's still growing. We have more cases than we did several years ago.
So that means the cure is all the more important.
It's all the more important, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I wanted to ask a little about why you're in this. What turned you this? You could have been a dermatologist too,
No, I think I love the immune system. It's the center of everything. I think in dermatology, the immune system plays a role. I think I enjoy the field of immunology because it really encompasses all aspects of human health.
Where did you study and what did you study?
So I did my MD back in Zambia, where I'm originally from, and I also did my PhD in Japan in immunology. And then I moved to UCSF for fellowship work, and then came to Hawaii to start up my research as a new investigator. And it's been very exciting teaming up with a great research team at medical school.
Definitely agrees with you. And when I was there, I noticed that everyone in the medical school and the cancer center and the Center for AIDS was very deferring to you as a leader in their crowd.
No,
you don't have to say anything.
great.
I'm just telling you my observation.
Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. We're very happy with the turnout was excellent, and we will want to try to do this again.
So, what's your advice to some young person who wants to study? Use camera 2, wants to study this in this area, what should he do? What should he do? She do to get involved? And what are the prospects as a career?
Yeah, no, I think there's, you know, the biomedical research field and the medical field as a whole is really exciting. We've made some dramatic turns over the last few years, and I think this is a great career path to pursue. And you know, the medical school in JABSOM has this great researchers and investigators doing all sorts of exciting work, and I would invite them over to come and meet with us. We're always very open to chat with students and prospective individuals. We have high school students in our group as well, so we're very excited to pass on the message to pursue careers in this field.
Okay, I hope you'll come back, talk to us again.
Absolutely.
That's
great.
Lishomwa Ndhlovu, Associate Professor and researcher at the Hawaii Center for HIV/AIDS. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Aloha.
Hi everybody, I'm I.C. Davidson. Thanks for watching Think Tech Hawaii. One of the things that we try to do here is promote civic engagement. How do we do that? We put on shows weekdays from 12 to 5 p.m. We let people in our world on Facebook and all the social media. Today I'd like to talk to you about another way that you can engage us here at Think Tech Hawaii and help us promote civic engagement here in Hawaii. What you do is you get on Twitter, you follow us at ThinkTechHI, and during the day, between weekdays between 12 and 5 p.m., you can interact with each of our live shows. What does that mean? You can send us questions, comments, thoughts, experiences, anything. All you have to do is mention us on Twitter. We'll see it here in the studio, and our hosts and guests will address them accordingly. This is a big thing for us. We want to hear from you. The conversation doesn't start here when our show ends. It ends when everybody gets their say. Join us weekdays, 12 to 5 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com. Join in the conversations live with Twitter, at ThinkTechHI. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. See you soon.